That always makes me smile.
It's
to
been
see
a
you
while,
smile.
so everything went well at the dentist. That's where we last left off.
Oh yeah.
Well, so, I really didn't have anything in particular to ask you, but something came to mind a moment ago was when everything started to fall apart for the dominoes, and what was the saddest moment for you when that happened?
Well, the saddest moment for me was when I left England, and I just came to the conclusion that Eric was not coming out of this, and if he did, I wasn't going to be included. Because everything was all about Eric, and it still is, but he's Eric Clapton.
You had waited a pretty long time.
A couple of years, yeah, and I was destroying myself.
Where were you?
On purpose. I was in my house in Ascot. I had my Ferrari and the Mercedes and the whole 9 yards, and I crashed the Ferrari, I crashed the Mercedes. I mean, everything just started going downhill for me.
And you couldn't get Eric to come out at all.
Well, he would not come out of the house. At one point, I pulled up my Daytona and just revved the engine real loud and screamed for him, "Come out of the house, man! Come on out of there!" And he came to the door, and he had a tattered bathrobe on, 3/4 length, brown. I remember it well. And he looked real bad. His fingernails were real long and they were yellow. It reminded me of what Howard Hughes must have looked like. And it was pretty shocking. Man, I went into the house and it was, the dog had been in there and nobody had done anything about it. It was a mess in that place. But
how did that make you feel?
sad. Like, what is this? It was very dark, not light-wise, but that too, but there's just the whole thing in my car, dark. But that's the way it is with smack, heroin. Ain't nothing bright and cheerful about it. Nuh-uh. Anyway, I knew that there's nothing I could do. And when I went back home, it didn't take very long. I just made my mind up. I think I said it in another interview. I just made my mind up that was it. And I was just going to go back to America. And at least I stood a chance of doing something with my life, and expressing myself. I couldn't do that in England, because it's just not the land of the bands. It's the land of the superstars, All this. That's what George said to me one time. He says, well, before I left to go back, because I talked to him about this very thing I'm saying now about Eric not doing well at all, And George said, well, are you going to stay here and be one of us, or are you going to go back to America? I said, I don't know. I think I'm just going to go back to the States. At least I can go play and do what I want to do. There wasn't nowhere for me to play, nothing for me to do in England. Except wait and wait and wait. I couldn't go out and play, like in America, you can go play a honky-tonk if you want to. If you just want to go, you can play anywhere. You can do something with your life. You can't do it there, And it didn't really hit me what George was saying, to me, are you going to stay here and be one of us? I didn't quite get it until I was pretty much on the streets in the United States.
I was going to ask you if you ever regretted that decision.
No, because I'm sitting here now, and I have no regrets. In my life, I have no regrets because every decision I made, there was reasoning behind it. Whether it might have been clouded by drugs and alcohol, that's irrelevant. There was something there. Even when I was in my deepest, darkest moments before I left, I was having my difficult times too with drugs and alcohol, but I still had the something. There was an anchor there. There's something that steadied me and led me out of my bleak existence. You know, I had a beautiful house and all this stuff, all the, the gold, the clothes and all of that stuff.
You walked away from it all.
I left everything.
I think it takes a bigger man to do something like that, quite honestly.
Well,
it does.
Well, we've been together for 18 years, and we've started over, our lives over probably 6 or 7 times,
It hasn't been easy.
If I had every car and every house and everything that I ever owned, I would be stuck in some place and not be able to move around. I never had anything when I was growing up, and everything I did have, I had to work for. And so I really didn't put a lot of value in money, and especially being in England and it being pounds that I'm dealing with, I had no perspective of it. But I've never had a good perspective on money, because it comes and goes. There are certain things that love, understanding, kindness, respect, integrity, some words that these things are the things that last. True relationships for the right reasons. That's what's important. Eric has the first. I went through his whole house. I lived there for a year, and I had access to every room, nook and cranny, and I covered them all. He had clothes that he had from years and years and years ago. Stuff from when he was with the Yardbirds. He still had all his shirts and everything. I dug out an old Chuck Berry shirt and had Chuck on that plane like that, and I said, "Hey man, can I have that T-shirt up on the top of the closet?" He said, "Sure, go ahead and take it." Yeah. But there was there were lots of everything that he ever had, Yeah. And so, and now he's got like a dozen Ferraris and Lord knows what else in houses here and there, and he's got Crossroads, but he's got to have this all got to be kept up and all of that. I'm really happy to be. Pretty much, we are burdenless.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. So, in those 2 years, what were you doing on a daily basis? What were you thinking?
I'd have like either the Formula One races on, or tennis matches on, and with the sound down.
For 2 years.
Yeah, and I had I traded a 2-seater Mercedes I had to a guy for the huge stereo system and about 1,000 albums. And so I was blasting Chick Corea and Crystal Silence and, and Jose Feliciano, California Dreamin'. I didn't know that was Jim Gordon playing on that whole album. That was one of my very favorite albums, Jose Feliciano. What a great guitar player. But I used to play it even after we had the Dominoes together in my first Ferrari I had, my 330 GTC. I would be cranking it up, man, and listen to Jose, California Dreamin'. I can still remember. It takes me right there just talking about it. I can hear it and remember cruising down the road, listening to California Dreamin' and the great drums and percussion. And Jim Gordon and I got to talking one day about all because he was like the number one guy, period. I mean, hands down, aside from Hal Blaine. He's the number one guy in session world, and he plays with everybody. And I asked him, or we were talking. He asked me rather, what was one of my favorite albums? And I said, "Oh man, California Dreamin', Jose Feliciano." He said, "That's me playing on all that." I said, "Get out of here!" And I said, "Wow, I never even put the 2 and 2 together, and we've been playing together for years." It never dawned on me that that's who it was, because his playing was so everywhere that, you really have to have a specific ear to pick him out.
So did you ever stay in contact with Carl? And obviously things happened with Jim Gordon, it was a few years later.
Well,
what happened to them right after Dominoes?
I'll tell you, Carl went on to play with Eric. Jim came back to America and was doing a lot of session work, and he didn't get.
Did you talk about it with them at all? Not Carl. No,
I've talked to both of them, and this was right before Carl died, and not long before Jim Gordon was put in jailhouse. I said, we were in Marietta, Georgia. I remember it. I remember the house on, don't remember the street or road it was on, but I was going to say Gray Highway, but that's Macon. I said, I think how about I just put together the dominoes, get Carl and Jim and me, and we'll find a guitar player. I knew a bunch of guitar players. So I called Carl, not knowing that he had just been fired, he and the whole band, the Ma Bell, it wasn't even a telegram. It was a blanket. Mr. Clapton no longer has need of your services.
Did Carl tell you about that?
Yeah, he was devastated. He said I'll probably never ever play again, and he didn't. It wasn't long. Like I said, it wasn't long after that they found him at his house, and he had OD'd. And Jim, he was up for anything, if they could put it together. And then it wasn't long after that tragedy happened in his life,
Well, he killed
with
his mother.
family. He killed his mother, but and that's not a very happy note. But in fact, I did speak with him. I was get like Mike O'Neill, a guy from Texas, a Texas guitar player. I mean, he's a great player. I got a guy, let's just do it, and man, it was like calling negativity.
Well,
Hello, negativity here. And I'm the most optimistic person in the world. Jeez.
Some things aren't meant to continue on.
No. I couldn't, I wouldn't have been able to have fitted in with that scene that was going on there if I'd have tried. Because, I'm bigger than that scene. My vision and my scope and my take on who I am and who I was, I had eyes that were looking far beyond being around and befriending Eric Clapton. That wasn't the end and all for me. Well, it was the end and all for a lot of musicians. Chris Stanton, but he's just back there painting away, all his life with his head down, so his whole life had been spent back behind Eric in the shadows or on the side of the stage with his head down banging away. That was not me. I'm Bobby Whitlock. I've always been me.
You've never seen yourself as a sideman.
Oh, hell no. I've never been a sideman ever. Even when I was with Delaney, at least, even though they didn't give me the money, I owned a percentage of it. They told me it was, so I was a 15% owner of D&B, of course. But in my mind, I never had a sideman mentality. Never.
I don't think Eric saw you as a sideman, and that's probably one of the reasons why nothing continued after that, because you were someone who should have been on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody knew that, but I wasn't going to bend to their reasoning or way of thinking. My all in all wasn't to be a superstar, just being who I am. I was already there. And it didn't it didn't make me go, oh wow, I'm famous and all that stuff. Didn't work, it didn't do it. I mean, I just went on with my life. I enjoyed my notoriety, still do, but it's a matter of people paying me respect. I get it a lot with my art, people, from my music, from all these years. And it's not just the Layla album, it's Exile on Main Street. People recognize that I played on that. And All Things Must Pass, and all the Delaney and Bonnie stuff, and they go, wow. And there's a guy the other day didn't know that we were on Eric's first record, because his thing has gone on for so long, people have forgotten,
Yeah.
Every band member he's ever had are forgotten, they're, you might think Andy Fairweather Low. But that's a great name. How you going to forget that one? I might get, Fairweather Low Andy. I don't know, but but I mean, you know what I mean.
But the world has changed. Music has changed. I mean,
Yeah.
we're dealing with a whole different situation these days.
Yeah. It was seat of the pants back then. I think that was part of the charm of it all. And I mean, we were seat of the pants. When we went on the road with the Dominoes, it was like one suitcase. That was it. And he had 2 guitars, and we had 1 roadie, and a road manager, and 2 guys to carry the equipment. But we toted our own equipment and everything. It was all, all together in room
It
cars.
was cool. It was cool.
Way cool,
You
way
can't
cool.
anymore.
Something to be remembered,
Right.
All this other stuff with all the fruit trays and everything is nothing to remember,
Well, and everybody played with everybody. That was my experience.
Yeah,
Wherever you went,
yeah.
you got up and you played.
Everybody's
Whoever.
playing with everybody.
It's not like that anymore.
No, hell no.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
I wouldn't know because I never go out. They might be doing it.
No, it's not quite. It's not the same.
They're certainly playing online now, people are digging back in there and pulling out their reserve resources.
So when you got back to the United States, you managed to pull yourself out of the gloom and get going?
I put me together a little band right away. I had a PA system built, had somebody book some gigs, and I wanted to play every honky-tonk from Memphis to LA and stay in motels that had palm trees that lit up outside with flamingos stuck in the ground,
They were bad.
If you ever want to book yourself a club tour in the United States, you can get down there if you're not real specific what kind of club. I didn't care because all I wanted to do was play and sing anyway. It was great to be out of that pressurized situation, that I was in, that waiting and that anxiety and the nothingness. I mean, I lived in Ringo Starr's house for a year or so, and I lived 28-room mansion, with 9.5-acre tiered estate. Tom Jones was across the street from me. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful place, and I was bouncing around in there like a BB in a number 2 wash tub. I had nothing going on, nothing to do, no one to play with, no one was interested. They all stay at home and, in their rock star bubble, and I was still wanting to play. My whole idea of things, at least I figured the Stones had it all worked out. 3 months of recreation, 3 months of creativity, 3 months of rehearsal, and 3 months of recording, and 3 months of going on the road. I thought, now that's a pretty sound thing, and I think they're probably still about that, like that as well. Eric wasn't doing a damn thing. Heroin.
Well, it was a bad time. It was a bad time.
It was always a bad time then. After the end of the Dominoes, it was downhill like quicker than the dadgum Jamaican bobsled team.
Well, everything has a way of working itself out.
Yeah.
So, Eric's sober, you're sober. Unfortunately, you've lost 2 members, but,
That happens.
That was a
If
long
you don't
time
pull the
ago
plug on that lifestyle, it'll pull your plug,